seems impossible to save these days. You are also supposed to have an emergency fund, right? In case something unexpected happens, you have to have a savings account with some money in so that you can deal with unexpected emergencies or something that happens that you could never have foreseen. The governor of the Reserve Bank said that interest rates won't be coming down anytime soon because inflation remains high. Welcome everybody to this episode of my podcast, the My House Works podcast. Well, today I want to talk about something I read in the news again. The governor of the Reserve Bank said that interest rates won't be coming down anytime soon because inflation remains high. Now, if government keeps on slapping extra levies on the fuel price as an example, there is no way that the inflation is going to come down because it has a ripple effect in our economy. If you throw the little stone into the pond, it has a ripple effect. And we all feel that effect every day because everything is more expensive. Just that levy on the fuel price causes a lot of damage to people's finances. So, yes, our already fragile economy just becomes worse because nobody ends up with really much more money in their pocket if everything becomes more expensive. And I understand everybody's frustration. The feeling of helplessness. When you have already cut back on your expenses as much as you can, you've given up all luxuries. You are getting less and less for your money. You are in survival mode, if we can call that. And then you hear that there's a new levy on the fuel and you know that everything is going to become more expensive again. It actually causes many people to fall into a state of depression. And yes, we don't know where to go. What can you do next to make something better or to get more income? And this is everybody's frustration, everybody's feelings of helplessness. And yes, there's a build-up of anger and feelings of hopelessness inside of you. You read this, you hear this, and then those feelings just have a way of building up inside of you because there's not much that you can do about stuff like that. Now, we all know that we have to save because everybody has an old age looming in front of them. And I don't think there's anybody who wants to be a burden on others or a burden on the state. Everybody would like to be able to look after themselves in their old age, to have funds, to live a decent life, a life that is not filled with begging and scrimping and relying on others for your basic needs. That is very degrading, and nobody wants to be there. However, it seems impossible to save these days. You are also supposed to have an emergency fund, right? in case something unexpected happens. You have to have a savings account with some money in so that you can deal with unexpected emergencies or something that happens that you could never have foreseen. Well, people have started draining their emergency funds just to pay what they need to pay. So the emergency fund is maybe even gone. So for many people, it seems impossible to plan further than the next paycheck or the end of the month because they've nowhere to go. They've got nowhere to escape to. My heart goes out to families with young children and parents who are consumed with worries on how they are going to care for their children, how they are going to pay for everything that needs to be paid. And we often wonder, are we ever going to experience carefree days again? When the economy goes well, when people have decent jobs, and when you have some extra money to put away or replenish your emergency savings account again. At the moment, it feels that it's never going to happen again because we've been dealing with financial difficulty for at least 10 years. Some would say as far as the GFC, the global financial crisis. Did we ever properly recover from that? So yeah, for 10 years, people have had to save, scrimp, cut back on expenses, and they've lost that feeling of being carefree, of having sufficient money, of being able to plan properly for the future. Now, what do people do? How do they react? Many people just rack up more debt until they can't get any debt anymore. And then they become stuck and they have to declare bankruptcy. Others just become severely depressed and they're forever visiting doctors trying to get more prescription drugs to try and deal with their feelings of hopelessness. Others turn violent, and others have physical illnesses. They get ulcers, etc., because of all this stress or extra stress that everybody has to deal with. And that is not a pleasant place to be in. It's not a good place for a nation to be in. It's actually quite terrible. And then we have the keyboard warriors. They add to this hurricane of negativity. And so we spiral downwards. We read the news, we look at social media, we read what the keyboard warriors write, and then we just spiral downwards. And it's a vicious, vicious circle. I have learned to read less newspaper articles because often they are just out for sensation, and also to be very careful of what I read on social media, who I follow. I try to follow people who come up with ideas, who look at things differently, and that also makes me more positive and more inclined to act instead of sitting back, folding arms and doing nothing. So the question is there something we can do? Have you racked your brains? Have you thought about something extra to do? Because if you can come up with something extra to do, something that will create you another source of income, then you can do a lot to bring relief to this reality that we find ourselves in. I have a few summers behind me, and I can tell you that throughout my life, without fail, I turned to action. It's not in my nature to go and sit and do nothing. It's luckily in my nature to get up and try something new and do something else. Has it always been successful? No. But has it changed my life? For sure. So I think the secret to getting out of this situation is to finding additional sources of income. Not only does it give you more control, it also makes you feel better, and you feel that you can make a difference to your own life, first of all. And there's always hope. Action has always made a difference in my husband Jan and I's lives. Luckily, we are both the same. We just get up and we work more, or we do something else. You may say that you have taken action, you have tried something, and it hasn't worked. Well, then you need to take a different action. Giving up is not the answer. Most people, as I said, need more sources of income in order to keep up with the living expenses. Many say that they don't have spare money to start another or a new venture. Well, there are many side hustles that you can start with very little money. And the same social media that can be so detrimental to how you feel about everything can also bring you many opportunities to add other sources of income to what you are already earning. So yes, we all know that you need to acquire assets that give you passive income. I don't think there's really something like passive income. If you have investments or a property that gives you a form of income, it's not completely passive. You need to pay attention to everything you have that gives you income. You need to review your portfolio. You need to review the investments you've made. You need to change if necessary. So it's not completely passive. That is a fool's paradise. Even if you have an additional property that gives you rental income, you will know that it's not passive. It still takes a lot of input from you, but it is a good source of extra income. That is why it is such a popular investment for people to make. But if you don't have investments or a property that gives you income, additional income, then the time to start side hustles is now. Nothing is always only bad. Sometimes we lose the ability to see something positive, to see positivity in our futures, to have hope. But nothing is always only bad. Not as everything is not always 100% good. We're on earth. Nothing is ever perfect and nothing is ever only bad. So currently we find ourselves in the sharing economy. And this brings and has brought many new opportunities to many people. So that is something good. You are in the sharing economy. You have something that can be shared with others, which you can monetize. 4. Extra income. A few years ago, I attended a webinar held by Tony Robbins, and it was a free webinar. More than 800,000 people from all over the world attended this webinar. And it just goes to show you that many people all over the world find themselves in a situation where they are looking for different outcomes, where they find themselves currently is much less than perfect. And so Tony proceeded to ask people, if a younger person comes to you and asks you for advice, are you able to give a person younger than you advice on something? In other words, you have life experiences, you have skills, you have knowledge, you have done things other people have not. And because of that, you have knowledge that you can share. So inside of you is something that you can knowledge, interests, skills that you can share and that you can monetize. So think about yourself. What advice can you give a younger person standing in front of you? This can be any area of life, any area, anything that you've gone through, that you've learned from. You know more about it than the person asking you for advice. And we also find ourselves in an economy and an era where you don't have to have a diploma or university degree in order to share knowledge. If you can bake a wonderful bread, you can share that knowledge. You can monetize that knowledge in some way. You don't need to be a qualified chef to bake a good bread. So that has also made it easier for people to make income from skills and knowledge that they possess. The fact that we often don't require degrees in order to share knowledge. Jan and I have often spoken about the fact that when we stop working, we will have probably 40 years, 50 years of working experience. If we don't share that with someone, it just goes to waste. Often, your children don't do what you did, and they don't want to do that. They are off doing their own thing. But that knowledge that you've built up, the skills over a 30, 40, 50-year career even, that is extremely valuable because you can take what you learned over several years, you can compact it and put it in a shorter form and teach that to somebody else. And in that way, you save them many, many years of learning. In other words, you can fast forward their process of learning and getting new skills. And this is absolutely wonderful about the new economy. The fact that you can do this, that knowledge no longer needs to go to waste. So you have knowledge and skills that you can share. So have I, so have Jan. So in the past generations, this was not possible, but now you can do it. And I urge you to do an assessment of your knowledge and skills and what you know and see how you can try to monetize that in order to give you an extra source of income. So a whole new world has opened up, and in my mind, it gives a lot of hope and opportunities for people. And the thing is that you need to take action now. If I didn't attend that seminar 2 years ago, and if I didn't take action then, I wouldn't have been here today. So it's the action that you take today that gives you the results a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line. If I'd folded my arms and sat on the couch and said, "Ach, no, stuff that, this is just a lot of nonsense," I would not have been here. So if you think that this is something that you can do, get going now, because you will see the results in a year or more to come. You need to get started. There are new horizons looking at you, waiting for you to explore. And also along the way, you've heard about unintended consequences. Well, unintended consequences also happen to you. So if you just start on something, it's like a ball of snow. As it rolls down, it gathers more snow, it gets bigger. And this is exactly what will happen to you as long as you get started. So in the next podcast, I will be talking about what we did, what I did, and what other possibilities in the same direction are available to everybody who feels that they are going to do something about making a change to their future, about getting extra and additional sources of income. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Bye.